Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands.
upcoming tours,
And show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
January 9th, 2023.
Welcome back. This is All That Jam. We are into January already. Tours are starting to heat up. We have our interview with Guerilla Toss, Peter Negroponte, coming up. And before that, we're going to have Amanda with her top 3 stories of the week. Amanda, how are you doing this week?
Kevin, I am doing well. I'm feeling a little bit more settled into the new year than I was when we last spoke. So that's always great.
Yes. I spoke yesterday with Wade, who was in with Humphreys back in the day, and he was instrumental in the creation and structure of Bowl. And he was like, call me, I got a story for you. So I actually got it recorded, and maybe Wednesday, hopefully, I'm going to get it out there so everybody can check it out. It's a short little 10-minute drop we're going to do. What were you up to this week? Anything exciting?
Not really, to be honest with you, but that's okay. This week was a week of getting myself a little bit organized, prepared for everything we've got going on. Because, Kevin, as you know, we have so many great interviews coming up or kind of already in the can, ready to be put out there.
Yes. Huge lineup of stuff coming up there. And of course, today it's going to be Peter Negroponte from Guerilla Toss. Interesting because I saw a picture on Facebook of Trey with their shirt on, and it was an ad for them. So they were smart enough, I guess, to tag Phish into, so it showed up on my Facebook page. And I was like, oh, what's this band about? And I listened to them. I was like, that's right up my alley. And it's so not Phish. But a spoiler alert, they opened for Phish night 2 of Bethel, or night 1. So we'll get to hear about that in a little bit. But you have your top 3 stories of the week, so let's jump into that.
The top 3 stories of the week.
All right, Kevin. Yeah, let's talk about our top stories of the week. So first up, as you know, this is that time of year where people start thinking about the Grammys. I know a few months ago we talked about some of the bands we love that were up for consideration. And just this weekend, there were some acts that we all know and love who have been named as the 2023 Grammy Lifetime Achievement honorees. Now, I was curious because, you hear about these, but I didn't really know how far back that particular award goes. So it's a special Grammy award, of course, but that Lifetime Achievement Award recipient status was first granted in 1963. I didn't realize it went back that far. So Bing Crosby was the first to receive it. The Dead got that in 2007.
Wow, it took them that long, huh?
Right? I know that's where I always start kind of searching around to see some of the bands that we love. The Meters in 2018. And then this year, we've got Bobby McFerrin, Nirvana, Slick Rick, The Supremes, and then Ann and Nancy Wilson of Heart, among a few others. But those would be some of the notable names that
So do they put Hart in, or do they put Ann and Nancy Wilson in?
they put Ann and Nancy.
Okay, because they basically were
Mm-hmm.
Hart.
Yes.
Everybody in and out. And you said Nirvana.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that. Some of the other names, I mean, I don't see Bobby McFerrin. Don't Worry, Be Happy was the number 1 jam at one time.
It sure was. And I know it's something that people reference a lot because, some of us are just really worried about
Right.
things. But, yeah, I kind of am curious now, and I didn't have a chance to go through and see what else Bobby's done. He could be one of those people who's been producing and writing songs and did a lot for other people, but I'm not aware of it.
And he might be famous all over the world.
Yeah, I know the reach is important too. But one other thing, this is a little bit different, but there's also these trustee awards that go out to people who maybe work in the industry but are not musicians. So photographers, educators. And there's a technical Grammy award, which is going to go in part to Dr. Andy Hildebrand, who's the creator of Autotune.
Ooh.
right? So I personally I'm a fan of anything that enhances music when it's used, appropriately or thoughtfully. So I'm gonna do a little research into Dr. Andy.
My whole thing is it's a very electronic, hard sound that happens to the voice when they do that because it's blending the octave, or I'm not sure how it works, but that's my issue. It sounds like it isn't real.
Yeah, and I don't think it's supposed to sound real either. So, I mean, my tastes generally they can go in that direction. I'm not necessarily full on like EDM, but they can definitely touch more of the electronic side. So maybe I'm a little more. I also love a synthesizer, so maybe I'm a little more like prepped.
It's a contentious point when I make fun of auto tune with my daughters. They're like, "Fuck you. Maybe your band should use it."
Maybe helpful. I've heard that argument before. And actually, if someone out there has great technical skills, it would be awesome. I think I actually have heard this a few times where someone has done some auto tuning of Trey.
Nice. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. So those awards are going to be presented at the Recording Academy's Special Merit Awards ceremony in early February.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's the first story. The second story I've got for this week, it's a little bit complicated, so I'm going to try to just simplify it. So Peter Gabriel, we know and love Mr. Gabriel. Let's time travel back to 2005. Mr. Gabriel had talked to Rolling Stone magazine and said he was making steady progress on his new LP after already working on it for about 3 or 4 years. Well, it's 18 years after the fact. And the Chinese Democracy of Peter Gabriel albums is finally going to be released. There's a leadoff single for that. I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly. Panopticon was shared this past Friday morning.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's classic Peter Gabriel. His last few albums were, after So, what do? You put out So that has every great song of that year on it. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, and I know there's a lot of thought and a lot of deep meaning in his work. So they released that signal to coincide with the full moon in Cancer. That is not a joke. Subsequent tracks will be timed to the lunar cycle.
Right. It's the
So
Wolf Moon, is what I was
yes,
told by the Grandmaster.
that's right. And so I can't wait to listen. I have not listened to that first track yet, but I feel like this name comes up randomly on the show, but did want to mention that Brian Eno contributed the haunting electronics to
Of course he
album.
did. Of course
So
he did.
there you go. Just want to come full circle with that.
I'm surprised Eno hasn't ended up with some jam band and produced
Like
them.
officially, right? More
Yeah.
officially, yeah. I don't know. He doesn't seem like someone that likes to be pinned down to any one thing in
Right. But
particular.
working with like Dopapod or Papadisio or something, I bet he could get some neat shit out of them.
Oh, I'm sure of it. Well, you never know. It could be happening just with like an NDA or something back there. Who knows?
Yes.
With a guy like that, anything's possible, I think.
Right.
So I would just say if you're either just curious or a fan of Peter Gabriel, we will be seeing the songs from that album coming out. Watch the moon, and then you'll know when another one's going to be released.
So sometime in February.
Yeah. So maybe we'll even share. There's a YouTube video out of that first single too.
All right, cool.
Yeah. And then the last story is kind of for fun, but this maybe just brought back some memories for me personally. 50 Cent and Eminem are working on an 8 Mile TV series. So that was just announced, about a day or so ago. And the project's in motion. They want to bring that movie, or I guess the concept of that movie, to television. And 50 Cent also said he plans to adapt the story of Snoop Dogg into a series called Murder Was the Case. So 50 Cent is very busy. He's got a lot going on.
Trying to cash in.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know it's been 20 years since Die Hard or Trying came out?
20 years.
It's been 20 years since 50 Cent's album, yeah.
Can I just say that everything that I like within the last 12 to 18 months has celebrated a 20th or 25th anniversary, if not more years, it seems like.
Did you get a chance to see Meet Me in the Bathroom? about the yeah yeah yeahs and the Strokes, and it's about the 2001 to 2011 in New York.
No, but that sounds
Oh,
awesome.
oh my God, it's so good. It's just the old footage on the Moldy Peaches, like some of their first duo, shows they did together. It's pretty neat.
Oh, wow.
All
Well,
right,
I
but
know.
we digress. So when does the 8 Mile thing pop, or is this just one of those, hey, it's in production and we may never actually see it, or?
Yeah, so it is in the production phase right now, and I guess we'll just stay tuned.
It's going to be 50 cents Chinese democracy, huh?
Yeah, hopefully not. They need those of us who are still going to be around to like remember when
Right.
the album actually came out. So they better get moving on it.
Right, exactly. Exactly. All right, very good. So, next week we will be back with three more stories. And next up, we're going to have Peter Negroponte, our interview. What's this first clip we're listening to, Amanda?
Yeah. So really great chat that you had with Peter, and some of the things that he was talking about with you were centered around Sub Pop, their new album, and just their process in the studio. As well as some conversation around substance abuse and just how that plays into everything.
Very wide ranging, and he was very giving in the interview. He was, willing to touch on those things. I wasn't going to bring that up. I had read about Cassie, their singer, having a lot of issues with substance abuse and how she struggled with it. And the lyrics on this new album really reflect her coming to terms with it. I call it positive. Peter was a little, I don't know how positive she is, but the light is shining in. It's going to be okay. There might be a positive outcome. So all right, let's check that out.
First hear it, so
Right. I was going to ask you. I was going to say you guys don't rest on your laurels, and your sound. You listen to your albums; it's developed over the years in some interesting ways.
yeah,
So, it was. I don't want to. No wave is kind of. I don't know. I hate labels, but you had a no wavy thing kind of thing in the beginning, and your
yeah,
new album is hooks and it's pop, and I put it on my list of. It was one of my 9 best of the year. I
yeah.
just found it
I saw it. Thank
fantastic.
you, thank you
Yes,
so much.
I love it. It's just so fantastic. Dude, so let's talk about how you ended up on Sub Pop, since I just mentioned the new
Yeah,
album. That's
yeah.
fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. The sub pop thing is like it's a dream come true. Um, uh, the story goes something like, and I'll try to keep it short. Excuse me if I ramble. Sometimes I just go off, but
Hey, you
like,
go ahead and ramble.
yeah. The basic story with them is that it was kind of the old fashioned way where we now we have management. We've had a booking agent for a long time. We even have we have like a lawyer now and all this stuff. Not that we do many legal deals, but he it was actually the lawyer reached out to Sub Pop and was like, Guerilla Toss is unsigned right now, or we were on DFA for years and our contract was up with them, and we were looking for a new label, and so it was like our lawyer guy reached out and told Sub Pop that we were playing in Seattle and they should go check it out. And Sub Pop was like, "Oh, we like Guerilla Toss. We'll go to the show." So it was kind of the old fashioned way. They came to the show, and they actually gave us a tour of their office. They invited us to the office, and we took a tour of the Sub Pop office, which is awesome. It's huge. It's it's downtown Seattle. It's a big label.
I bet they
It's
got so much memorabilia. I'd be
yeah,
so
it's
fanboy in there.
amazing. Yeah, all the posters, and they were just giving us vinyl and shirts. So like, here, take this, take this. So that was really wonderful, and we were really nervous too because we were like, "Oh my God, we're down here at Sub Pop, and like maybe they want to sign us." And they came to the show. It was like the head of the A&R, this guy Tony, who we work with, and then the head of the label, one of them, John Poneman, he came out to the show, and it was interesting because it was really exciting, and it was the show in Seattle, and we were like backstage or in the green room, and we were like we got to, this is the big show, we got to give it our best, we were all nervous. And we went on and we kind of crushed it too. We got off the stage and I was like, that's the best we could have done. I hope they liked it. And then there was this weird thing where we didn't hear from them for a little while.
Maybe we didn't play so well.
I didn't know what to expect, but it was like a couple weeks went by and we didn't hear from them. And I was like, well, so I started to follow up and our manager guy started to follow up and we weren't really getting much of a response. And then whatever, I'll just sort of skip this stuff. But there was at one point they were like, okay, we're going to sign you. And we were like, yes. And then like another month went by and they were like, oh, you know what? We actually can't sign. It was really weird. They were like, but you can do a single for our single series, our Sub Pop Singles Club. And we were like, well, okay. And we went and we did that. And I don't even know if that was like a game changer, but we did a single for them. And I don't really know what happened. Our manager likes to take credit and say that he really bugged them. Maybe that's true. I'm not sure. But
was the single the first single off the album, the new album?
no, it was for the 7-inch club. It was called Human Girl, and then Own Zone was the other song.
Okay.
Because that was back in 2020. That was for the singles club. But basically, the end of the story goes, and I like this part. And I said this. I think I was talking to. We did a thing with Relics recently, and they mentioned that I dropped this, but it was like the big three happened. It was like I remember it was like right at the beginning. It was the basketball got canceled, South by Southwest got canceled, and then Tom Hanks got COVID. You remember that? That was all one day.
Yep.
It was one day, and then that was the night I remember going to the supermarket and there was like lines out the door, and it was like, oh man, this is getting serious. And then the next day, Sub Pop signed us.
Nice.
So
and then you ended up with the whole COVID to come up with an album, I guess, huh?
Yes. Which, COVID sucks. It was awful. It still is awful. It was strange, and it was something that the entire world experienced together, which was so interesting. But we really had this crazy, it was like a blessing. We got to make this record. We had all this time to work on it, and we were just so fortunate.
It seems like your new album comes from more of a happy place, and a huge part of it for me is Cassie's lyrics.
Yeah.
How did that affect the direction or influence the music of the album itself?
So part of our process a lot of the time is that, and in this record, we collaborated with our guitar player, Arion, quite a bit. He came up here for like weeks at a time, during lockdowns and stuff. And the process is sort of like me and him will kind of come up with musical ideas, and we kind of work on a computer. I got I got my synth, I got the bass over here, I got guitars, and he plays guitar and he plays everything. And we make these kind of loops and ideas, and then we send them to Cassie, and she writes the lyrics and sends it back, and then we sculpt it all together. That was the process for this record. But so we were kind of writing some upbeat sounding music, but I don't really know where Cassie's sort of like, yeah, there's kind of an element of like,
acceptance, almost.
Like a what?
Acceptance.
Yeah, and it is really positive. It's definitely, if you dig a little deeper, it's positive, but it's coming from a pretty dark place. Cassie and really quite a few of us in the band have struggled pretty seriously with substance abuse issues in the past. We've all turned over a new leaf, and we're all doing much better, but we had definitely had some serious problems, and I think her lyrics are reflective of that. It's like she's writing, just about, breaking through a lot of that stuff and being happy with who you are and accepting
it's beautiful.
all the messed up stuff and trying to be positive about it. So the lyrics are pretty positive, but like I said, I do think there's a dark undertone, I think.
Yeah, sure. I can hear that. I can definitely hear that. All right. Well, how about, you said this album was done a certain way. What is your progression from the earlier albums? Did you used to sit in a room and just write the songs? It wasn't as compartmentalized, or?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, really, when we were starting off, we used to get in a room and just throw around ideas. I mean, we really, we were younger, and it was a totally different band back then, but we, I think it's at the very beginning, we were kind of still in school, and we, a few of us went to like a music school training, we had all that stuff, but we had access to these practice rooms, and we used to just be at the school all the time. I mean, we used to practice a lot. We really rehearsed, and just dissected all these ideas, and over time it becomes harder to all live together in squalor, so it's like, we did that for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Talking Heads, and what you were just saying, in the beginning of the Talking Heads in New York in the mid-'70s, they were living in squalor. I mean, New York was a hellscape back then.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they got Sire Records to come. They signed, boom, they became the biggest band in the world within a few
Yeah.
years. Do you think that that's even possible anymore with the internet and streaming and so much media saturation coming out of music?
Which to get signed and blow up and be
Well,
like,
to have something happen like the Talking Heads, you put out
yeah.
a quirky album that really has no commercial potential, and all of a sudden, it
No,
blows up.
No, is that possible now? I mean, no, not really, as far as I know.
I don't think so. I don't think it is either. It's just
It's a weird time. The music industry is a crumbling cookie, and it's on its way out. Like, I don't know, something will happen, that will be positive. But
like, do you see what a future is? Do you have any idea of what that looks like? Like the end of Spotify? I mean, I think Spotify has done more to decimate artist potential than anything because you don't get paid. You get nothing from it,
yeah, I don't think Spotify's going away. No, I don't think streaming services are going away. I mean, I think that I don't I don't know. I think it's pretty bleak at the moment. I think that at some point, I don't know. I think bands are going to keep struggling, and a lot of this, and even for us, we all have different jobs and gigs and income, and we this is still like, and this is still, we do this for fun because it's like our passion, and it's
right?
like we do make some money now, and it's not amazing, but it's like it's more than we ever brought in, and we get cool stuff.
This next clip, I found that as we're talking to bands, Amanda, that we keep coming up with the on the road and the cost of doing things and how to actually make this a business. I mean, a few of the people we've talked to have outside jobs working, at a pet store or something like that. There's just, it's amazing to me because I don't think that when I'm watching them. And I mentioned to him about sync licensing, which I've been reading about, which I think any jam band can do. Not to harp on Dopapod, but part of a Dopapod track could end up in a commercial. And boom, you make a lot of money off of that. And I guess it can support the rest of the endeavor. But let's check it out and we'll get some of your thoughts on the other side.
We did a licensing thing with like Apple recently, and whatever, that stuff's corny, but it's like, man, that was a big paycheck.
Hey.
And it gets split many different ways, and we go to pay back the record label and stuff, but it's like that kind of stuff is like winning the lottery. So when you get stuff like that, that's really cool. It's like the final frontier of recording music. Recorded music is like sync licensing, is getting these gigs with like TV and film.
Right.
So
I always say that it isn't selling out, it's cashing in.
No, exactly. I like that. I mean, like, and you can't sell out anymore, man. It's like any opportunity you get to fund your work, unless it's completely fucking evil, any opportunity, it's like, you got to take it, and
Right.
people who say otherwise, I don't know. I mean, I disagree.
We all can't be Ian from Fugazi and charge
No.
$5.
Yeah. And that's funny. And also, $5 back then was like $20 now. So literally, I've had punk rock people, kids come up and be like, the shows are too expensive. Fugazi was $5, and I'm like, dude, that's like $20 now, man. Like,
right, at inflation, right?
Yeah,
at least 20.
It's so silly, yeah. I think initially that might have been, so listen, like, we haven't touched on this yet, but big Phish fan here. And I love Phish. I love their visuals. I love the Chris Kuroda thing.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, I was like, we got to get a visual thing going. It is really important. And maybe some punk purists, would say it's all about the music, or something like that. But
go listen to Crass then.
Yeah, right. Yeah, those punk shows, like, you watch old videos and it's like all of the lights are on. It looks like a Walmart. It's, in the rec center. It's like, what the. But at some point we brought our buddy Willie into the fold, and Willie's awesome. He's this gigantic wook from the South. That's how I think he'd be okay with me describing him that way. He's the nicest, funniest dude. I love Willie. And he did a lot of our visuals for years. And more recently, he's been kind of occupied because he owns this record store called Fresh Produce Records. And it's in Macon, Georgia. He's crushing it right now with the record store. So he hasn't been as available as before. But so now we bring our friend Matthew on tour, and he does visuals. But we kind of work with what we got. It's like the venues we play. Sometimes more and more now we roll up to these venues, and there's like a nice lighting rig, like and a projector and a screen. That's always great. Sometimes we roll up and there's not much to work with, and we have some of our own lights we bring, but we're not bringing a crazy rig. We can't afford
Right.
that yet. But yeah, I mean, I think that stuff's very important. And I was definitely, directly inspired by going to see Phish when I was a kid and being like, these lights are absolutely insane. I mean, they still are. And then now they're crazier than ever.
All right. So, Kevin, I'm glad that Peter brought all of that up because, to your point, and you're right, we so often find out through our conversations that there's just a layering of different types of work that these artists need to do to be able to continue their craft. So that licensing piece, number one, fascinates me, and I'm sure a lot more of that happens than we know about. Also. But I know that you all also talked about Phish, as well as just kind of production itself, right? Light shows and visuals. So maybe we can get into that a little bit.
Yep. They definitely, if you read through like their website, they mention the light visual guy as part of the band. So they were really on it. All right. And this last clip, we get into always we ask, what are you doing? So we know what people are up to. And he talks about, which we've mentioned before, opening for Phish. But before we get into that, make sure you go over to Twitter or Instagram at All That Jam Pod. Follow us, go to the website, allthatjampod.com, sign up for the email. And if you hit Apple, please give us 5 stars and actually write a sentence or two for us. It would really help. Spotify, follow, whatever, wherever you get your podcast. And let's jump into this clip and talk about it a little bit on the other side. You have Burlington, you said, lined up for New Year's. What does next year look like? Do you have anything lined up already? Do you have any plans to go back in the studio?
Yeah, that's the main plan is to make another record. That's what I want to do as soon as possible. Like, we spent too much time on Famously Alive. I love that record, but we just spent a lot of time on it, and I want to try a more raw approach. Do something a little more rockin', and we can all be together in the studio, and there's there's still pandemic and COVID, but it's I don't know, it's less crazy.
Right.
I don't even know, but we're gonna get together and work on a new record. We got some festival dates coming up, some stuff that's not announced, but I don't think we're gonna do any of the crazy long tours. Mostly just kind of local gigs and stuff that is convenient and pays well. Honestly,
Yeah.
touring is tough right now. Everything is expensive. Everyone's hurting. Less people
I keep laughing at people on Twitter. Everyone complains about eggs. And it's true that I was paying $1.50 in June for a dozen eggs, and it's $4 something now.
Yeah, things are weird. It's like the touring industry is hurting right now, not just for us, for everybody. And
I've seen a bunch of bands cancel.
Yeah.
People have been canceling whole tours because they're like, I'm going to go in debt.
Yeah,
Why am I going to do this?
Are you talking about the Animal Collective canceled their whole Europe tour?
Yeah. They were one of them, and there was some European singer who was coming to America that I read about. Same thing. She's like, going over there and touring, I'm going to go into debt, $30,000-$40,000. What's the upside for me?
Yeah, it's not looking good right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I'm very anti-Ticketmaster, and I think that if they were destroyed, it might help if it was split up.
It would be cool to see that happen. It would be cool to see streaming services pay a little bit more, which I think is sort of on the way to happening. It's not going to be a crazy difference, but it'll be something. And I don't know. Yeah, bands are going to keep struggling and just sort of have to do this for fun and
have the second job.
Yeah.
But
we'll see what happens. We're really lucky that we've even gotten this far and we've been able to make it work, and just we're just like blessed for being signed to Sub Pop. And
right, you're what? You're 10 years in now? This was your 10th anniversary.
It's been going for about 10 years, maybe more in some way, and but in another way, it always to me, it feels like it's always new. So it's kind of, we're always redefining it and making it different. So it's always like a new band to me, but of course I'd like to think that, but
Oh, I hear you.
we've had
It's
it for a while.
fantastic.
It's been good. Yeah.
I cannot wait to see what you guys do next. I'm in love with what you're doing. It's so fantastic.
Thank you
I,
so
I
much.
always I always joke that oh, you got no commercial potential, sign me up.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and I'm always excited when there's a little crossover from the jam scene.
Right. I saw that picture with Trey with your shirt on, and I was
Yeah,
like, how is that even possible? How did I not even catch
yeah,
that,
that was
connection?
so fun. Well, we quote unquote opened for Phish at Bethel Woods, and
Right.
we didn't really open for them. And the reason that we got that gig uh, has nothing to like. They didn't ask us to open the show. We opened because I work at that in that venue, or not in the venue. I work on the campus where Bethel Woods is where the venue
Oh.
is, and I do I teach kids music and stuff, and they were doing this like alternative stage, and they were like, does Guerilla Toss want to, open for any of the shows? And I was like, Phish and Dead and Co. We did Dead and Co. too. That was
Oh,
weird. Nobody really watched, but
right. Those
Phish was pretty
deadheads are
fun.
weird. The old
Yeah,
deadheads.
yeah. They
Real.
really didn't. They didn't have much of an interest, but the Phish crowd, we really went out there and we promoted it, like in the lot, and we were handing out flyers, and the stage is set up right as you walk into the main venue, so you can't miss it. So a bunch of people came to
Just walk by and catch it.
yeah.
Well, when
And
you're doing, or where I'm getting off script here, but when you're doing that, okay. We're opening for Phish, guys. Do you write a special set list, or do you stick with what you always do?
oh well, we kind of always mix up the set list. I mean, it's like, at a certain point, we're kind of just rearranging all of our best songs and then kind of throwing in some random ones here and there. I think for that show, I think right before the set, I wrote a set list or something, and it was like that was a really a particularly busy week, and I remember like, like I didn't even have. It was like right before we went on, I was like writing set lists really quick, like this is what we're gonna play, and maybe we sort of moved some stuff around. I think we played longer than we had planned. We kept playing, and but I mean that gig was amazing, and then we got to meet Trey. Yeah, we met Trey, and we gave him a shirt, and he wore the shirt.
So, Kevin, I had actually seen this was an interview from all the way back last May, kind of foreshadowing the whole Phish thing, where Peter had said, I don't think I'm supposed to announce it, but we're doing some support slots for a really cool band. The world's going to see it. It's, one of the biggest shows I've ever played. And so I definitely feel like that was something as different as it may have felt, for them or us. I think it's really great to see that all come together.
I loved what he said about Phish fans actually stopped, checked it out a little bit, but when they did the same thing before Dead and Company, everybody just kind of kept walking by, because Gorilla Toss is more akin to Phish in as much as, the breakdown and the weird instrumentation and, not weird instrumentation, but it isn't singer-songwriter-y kind of thing.
No, I think that anything that you could say isn't completely straightforward or following a kind of a traditional songwriting or jam pattern, to me, is fair game for being in the Phish universe.
Exactly. So we're going to wrap up today. We had talked about miracles and getting a miracle. I have an interesting story, I guess. On the 28th, I almost got a miracle. Someone had one for me, but I couldn't get myself from Baltimore to New York. So I missed out on that. But we had that Twitter question. People were talking. And what do we have for that?
Kevin, first, I just wanted to share a little bit about the Live for Live Music article that originally kind of inspired me to even just think about this. And so this was just from right before New Year's. There's a Phish fan. His name's Ryan Carey, and he's in media. I think he does videography, maybe documentaries or photography, something like that. Back in, I think, 2015, Ryan had an experience that I'm sure has happened to other people in the Phish or the Dead community specifically. But in this case, Ryan, huge Phish fan, living in Brooklyn, had been thinking about going to the shows. Things were sold out so early. Long story short, he has these near misses of getting tickets. One of them is his Bikram yoga teacher, who we didn't even know was a Phish fan. He's in the middle of this hot yoga. It's like 105 degrees. She starts talking about visualizing tickets, right? Like, imagine if you get a ticket. So he's freaking out. He almost gets a ticket from somebody that chick knows. Fast forward to the actual show on New Year's. He doesn't have anything, but he decides to just go down to MSG and walk around a little bit, right? And then he's kind of making eye contact with somebody. And this girl comes up to him and says, I think you want to have this. And she gives him this FedEx envelope, and there's tickets in there. And the seats are amazing, like section 103. And for any of us that know MSG, it's pretty damn good, right?
That's where you want to sit.
Yeah. So he has the tickets, and he walks in, and he realizes he's being routed, a place that he's never been before. Anyway, the whole story is amazing. We should definitely post the link to it because it goes into much, much more detail than that. But it's kind of one of those moments that makes you realize kind of anything is possible, right? Because he ended up in there, and he has a picture of himself from the show, just literally flabbergasted that this is happening to him. And he actually met some other people who had been miracled. So, Kevin, I was curious, have you ever given tickets to someone?
Have I? Yeah, definitely. I was a doorman at a couple of nightclubs in Baltimore, so I gave lots of people tickets.
There you go.
But if there's an extra ticket, the last thing I'm going to do is be like, oh, do you got that $30? If it's that bad, you probably shouldn't be going to a show. But on the other side, yes, I've had people give them to me. Most recently, when I went and saw Karina Reichman, Steely Tom was like, I got a ticket. Don't worry about it. I was like, cool. I mean, it's a $15 ticket, but it's so nice when someone says, it's on me, man. Check it out.
I love it. So I had an existential crisis moment, and I literally could not remember if I'd ever been miracled. But if it had happened, it would have been way before the time of social media. So there probably wouldn't have been a lot of fanfare about it, if that makes any sense. Although I don't think it's happened. I have given some tickets away, not to Phish, because usually I'm just holding on to those things. And if I have it, it's because I really need it. But we did ask, and we had some people say, at Phonographic Memory on Twitter has been on both sides of that equation. So that's pretty cool, like things coming back. And then an interesting little story from at Call Me Doc Brown, who said, my very first Dead show in '93 at Giant Stadium was a miracle. Now I usually grab an extra ticket to shows in case a friend needs one. If nobody needs it the day of the show, miracle it is. Always pay it forward, which I think if you have the means to do that, I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of add one more to that. Elise Brown, who's actually a good friend of mine, but she had shared as well. And she does this on a regular basis. She always buys extra tickets to local shows here in Denver, knowing that she doesn't need them. And she's become a lot of our personal ticket broker / miracle organizer. And I just think that's such a cool thing to do.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Love it. Well, everybody out there, make sure you look for more questions. We're at All That Jam Pod on Instagram and Twitter, and we love to hear from people about their experiences. We probably will be talking festivals sooner than later, since coming up this weekend, we have this weekend is Dead and Company is doing their Mexico thing. I believe that there's a band called Goose offering support one night, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Should be interesting. And you got any?
A few people are excited about that one, so little anticipation there.
Yes, I feel like I need to get my passport again. I had it when I was 13 and went to Ireland. And then when I guess when I was 18, it was no longer good, or before that, who knows? Anyway, you got anything else for us this week? Anything coming up next week?
There are a run of shows out here, Kevin, that are happening starting this week, and I got to put my own personal concert calendar together. I'm also being pressured and petitioned to go out to see some shows in San Francisco in 2 weeks, and currently have not made a call one way or another. So I guess stay tuned.
It sounds like the thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping to make it to one of the nights of next weekend. They're playing at the 9:30 Club, so we'll see.
One of my favorite venues, because obviously for the acts they get and everything, but also the one venue that I know, at least traditionally, always had a bar up on the second floor where you could get like a hot drink, like a hot toddy or something. And
Right.
I love going there for shows because you can have medicinal beverages that also have
Yes.
alcohol in them.
Yes, exactly.
These
It's a
things
cool
matter.
place.
Yeah, it is a cool
Cool
spot.
place. All right, next week we're going to have Tony Brown, used to publish Relics for 20 years or so. And after that, we got Ghostlight coming up, Gator from PPP, and Jimmy Montague when we get into February. But as Amanda said earlier, we have a lot of great stuff coming up. So make sure that you follow and like and all that good stuff. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. I'll see you next week, Amanda.
Have a great week.